Right now I'd like to chat to you about planting up pots and containers, be it for around the home or on graves, etc. If you are unable to plant up your pots, or if you don't have the time, you can drop them into us here at Archers and we'll plant them up for you. It's a free service that we offer. You just pay for a small bit of compost and the plants themselves. However, if you'd like to attempt it yourself, I'm going to show you a really simple method in how to plant up pots. It's really quick and it just gives you an idea where to start and what to look out for. So obviously you need a good pot. If it's a windy spot, choose a shallow pot. This is quite a shallow pot I've picked here, so it would be ideal for a windy site or on a grave or something like that. And I have filled the pot with a mixture of John Innes compost, which is the Westland John Innes compost, and some Jack's Magic, which is a fantastic organic compost. Now, when you plant up a pot, always start in the centre. So work from the centre outwards. Don't try planting out around the outside and then work inwards. So from the centre outwards. And think about what centrepiece you're going to use. Be it could be a geranium earlier on in the year, or it could be any kind of high plant. So in this case we're going to use a lovely mini Cyclamen. This is a red mini Cyclamen with a variegated leaf. Really, really nice plant. They come in different colours. You can get pinks, whites, deep reds and purples. In this case I'm going to use this nice red variety. So I'm going to pop one in the centre. Now you could put two in the centre if the pot was big enough, but in this case I'm just going to use one. So when you take the plant out of the pot, make sure to tease the roots out and have a good look at it. Make sure that it isn't too dry, or that make sure that the roots have formed. And that's a good point when you're picking plants in any garden centre. Make sure, and don't be afraid to take the plant out of the pot. Have a look at the root structure. Make sure that the root structure is good. Make sure that the plant has been well watered in the garden centre. And pick the centre of the pot and make a nice hole, just enough depth to cover the plant that you're putting in. Don't make it too deep. You don't want to bury the plant in the compost. So just deep enough that it's going to encompass the compost around which the plant has its roots. So just nice and deep, and pop it in the centre of the pot, like so. So as you can see, the plant takes up quite a large area in the pot, so we don't want to overcrowd the pot. Always put in just the right amount of plants. Don't force plants into it, because remember, the plants in the pot are going to be competing for nutrients and for water, and they will grow within the pot. So when you plant plants and planted containers or window boxes or even hanging baskets, when you do it initially it looks quite bare, but just remember that they will grow into the hanging basket or the pot, and in time they will become quite full. Now it depends on what colours you want to choose, but in this case I'm going to go with red and white for starters. So I'm using these nice Bellis, nice white Bellis. Again, these come in different colours. You can get them in pink or white or red. So I'm going to use these white ones because white and red go well together and they're nice contrasts. So again, you tease it out of the container, make sure that the root system is quite good, and use a bit of symmetry. So if you're putting 4 Bellis in, do it in the 4 corners, so 12 to 6, 9 to 3, make sure it's nice and symmetrical. If you were planting window boxes, you would put the high plants at the back of the window box, and you'd put the trailing plants or the lower plants towards the front of the window box, so they'd trail down over the front and you won't see the window box in time. I'm actually going to put 4 Bellis into this pot. So again, it's the 4 corners of the clock, as I call it. And that's leaving us with 4 gaps around the Bellis on the outside, and for those I'm going to use some of these beautiful Violas. Now Viola are nice in that they're quite resilient. The flower doesn't really get as damaged in the colder winds of the autumn. Plus when they get big enough they actually start to trail down over the pot. So in effect they're almost like a trailing plant, even technically they're not, but they have the same habit or form as a trailing plant, and they're a really, really nice plant for this time of the year. So I'm going to pop in 4 of these Violas. And just be careful when you're planting the plants beside each other that you don't damage the plants beside the one that you're planting. So be nice and gentle and try not to compact the soil too much or the compost too much within the pot. Now within the compost, I have mixed in this slow release fertilizer into the compost. So what I did was I mixed the compost up in a wheelbarrow first of all, and mixed in some of the slow release fertilizer. And this will feed the container for up to 6 months. So you don't have to go feeding it with tomato feed or any kind of liquid feed, because the feed is already introduced into the compost. So I've just got one more of these to pop in. And that's it. That's the planted container. And that will actually keep flowering, as long as you keep deadheading it, all the way through till end of October, even November, up to the first frost basically. So as long as you keep deadheading them, keep an eye on the watering that they don't dry out. This planted container will last for weeks and weeks and weeks. And they're an ideal plant, an ideal present, they're an ideal gift, and they're an ideal way of brightening up dead or dark areas in the garden, especially for the months ahead.